Hi, so my name is Rachel, and I've worked at Access Services for about the last 4 years. I work in the Children's Crisis Support Program department, and I'm just going to talk to you a little bit about what I've learned in regards to engaging difficult clients. As far as what I mean by engaging clients, I'm talking about what does it look like to start a conversation with somebody that you may never have talked to before, or somebody that you are going to be giving services to. And so really we're just talking about this process of starting a conversation with somebody. Some of the barriers that a lot of people face with talking to somebody that's new is that one of the major ones that I see is a lot of times we get referrals from people. And this has a lot of good information in it. It has information about what their diagnoses are. It has information about how they might have their history of services. It has information about how they may relate to different people and what works and what might not work. The problem is that as helpers, we bring, some of that information can be intimidating to us because we bring our experiences to the table as well. So one of the things that I found is that if I'm reading in a referral and a client has, let's say, something that might be very intimidating to me, I'm going to bring some of those feelings and some of that with me when I go to meet a person for the first time. So that's definitely something that, even though information in a referral can be helpful, it's also something that can influence, maybe in a negative way, what engagement can look like for this family. Another barrier that people bring is maybe what they're bringing to the table in regards to their experiences in the mental health field. So sometimes somebody may have years and years and years of working with different professionals, and they may have had bad experiences, and they're bringing that and kind of almost having a mood kind of coming to me. Is Rachel going to approach me in a way that maybe some other people have that may have been offensive to me? So on both sides of the equation of a conversation, me as the helper and the client as kind of this individual, we're both bringing things to the table that make it difficult sometimes to just even sit down and have this conversation, and that's what I'm kind of terming engagement at this point. The other thing that has kind of been historically difficult in engaging people is because of the different points of life that you may be in. So if I'm trying to engage with a teen as opposed to me being at the stage of life that I'm in, or even myself and trying to engage with a parent, if we're in different stages of life, that's almost a barrier sometimes. What have I done, or what have I learned over these past 4 years that can kind of influence what engagement and what that might look like and how it could be successful? One of the things that has been very, very helpful is just approaching people as individuals, meeting them on a person-to-person level. Again, we get these referrals, we get a lot of information about people before we even meet them. And even though that's helpful, like I said, making sure that you're going into it and just kind of saying, despite the fact that I've been in, I've met a number of people with this particular diagnosis, and despite the fact that I've read kind of their referral, I know all this stuff about them, coming at it from saying, okay, I'm going to look at this person as an individual. I'm going to hear their story and hear how this may have played out in their life, instead of trying to fit them into the mold of what this has looked for you in the past. The second thing I've done is brought my personality into things. So I'm going to tell you a story. It's a little silly. I myself feel as though I bring a lot of character and personality into my job. There's a reason why I do so well in children's crisis. So this story has to do with having an interaction with a 15-year-old who I had never met before, and in and of the story you'll kind of see some of the barriers that came into play was that from the time I kind of got the initial call, even her mom herself was saying that this would be a person who she wasn't going to engage with me. This was a client who this 15-year-old did not respond well. She had been in services for a number of years and had not responded well to many therapists. And that being said, what that looked like is she would not even talk with them. She wouldn't let them in the door. She wouldn't talk to them. She would kind of shut down and be very quiet, almost a little bit hostile to them. saying, I'm not going to talk to you. So I get this call from this parent about her 15-year-old daughter, and she was not going to school. She wouldn't leave her house. She wouldn't even leave her bedroom. And when Mom went up to her bedroom to even see if she would talk to me on the phone, she wouldn't even answer the door. So again, we're facing a lot of barriers to even starting this conversation. So not getting caught up in all that, one of the things I said to Mom is, okay, let's focus on what we can do. What I can offer you is, let me come out and just try and talk with her. Back to my personality, this particular day, I happen to be wearing glittery shoes. So I've got my sparkly shoes on. I get to this family's house, I go upstairs, and in and out of my personality and in the nature of who I am, I kind of go up to her room, and I knocked on her door, and she says, I don't want to talk to you. And I said, okay, well, I'm just going to be sitting down. I have these sparkly shoes on, and they are not very comfortable, so I sit down on her floor, and I'm in her hallway, and I just made a comment that it's kind of silly to be a children's crisis worker sitting in your hallway with these sparkly shoes on. And she pauses, and after just kind of saying that she's not going to talk with me, she pokes her head out the door to check out these sparkly shoes, and she says, are they Tom's? And I said, no, I got them from Kohl's. So we started talking about how much they were and that she liked my sparkly shoes. And I was able to engage her there and talk about something completely unrelated. And with the door open and seeing me kind of sitting on her floor, she kind of has this blanket wrapped around her, and she proceeds to sit down. And so then we start having this conversation. And we talked a little bit about just about shoes. We talked about fashion. We talked about movies. And I was able to get her engaged in a conversation. Sometimes just being a genuine person and being, bringing into it your personality and not necessarily forcing an agenda for the conversation, but starting where you can start and almost starting on off topic sometimes is able to engage somebody who may be more difficult to even start this conversation with. The last thing that I want to just kind of say, my final thoughts in talking and starting these conversations with people, is just checking what your expectations are. I think a lot of times as helpers, we have expectations for how we want a conversation to go. Maybe we have a goal in mind that we want to, in my example with this 15-year-old, if my goal had been that I was going to convince her to go to school that day, I would have failed pretty miserably. But if my goal is just to start this conversation and to engage with her and meet person to person and start this conversation, we can build a relationship that maybe then after a visit or something like that, then we can have a conversation about why she doesn't even want to go to school. So I guess my biggest piece of advice would be, the point would be is that if you let all the things that are barriers that aren't going to work with engaging this client get in the way, you'll never try something that does. So I would say go ahead, use your personality, be genuine, wear sparkly shoes, and maybe sit on the floor. And maybe you'll be able to engage with somebody who has, for all the referral says or for all the parents say, they won't even let you in the door.